All right, let's get a new 30-minute game going. Got the black pieces, perhaps. There we go. We've got 1e4. Play a caro-kann per usual. I think maybe next I'll learn the Sicilian with pawn out to c5 and then knight to c6. It seems like a good opening. Ooh, interesting. g3, perhaps preparing to fianchetto their light squared bishop. This is not a setup that I'm familiar with, but we'll see what happens. They go ahead and advance their e-pawn. We know how to meet this. We get our light squared bishop out. Okay. So we sort of transposed into some version of the advanced variation. I like knight out to c3 rather than g3 in this situation, but our opponent can do what they want to do. Plans for the future involve c5. Feels like a good idea. Our opponent played this new waiting move, I guess, g3, and then their bishop doesn't really have very appealing prospects. We have this nice pawn chain, f7, e6, d5. So we can go ahead and play c5 if they're not going to do anything to defend this pawn. If they want to take, we can take back. We can get our knight out to attack this pawn. So sort of the challenge now is we can't trade our light squared bishop away super easily. What I would like to do is get our knight out like this, so it's hitting this pawn on d4. So we need to maybe find a new home for our light squared bishop. We could come out to g4, we could drop back to g6. We could, like, technically go out to e4, but I don't like the idea of, like, takes on e4, sort of ruining our nice pawn structure that we have here. We could also just eliminate this knight if we wanted to. It's not doing anything super offensive right now. I'm fine to leave it in place. So maybe we'll just drop our bishop back to g6. That feels alright. I guess we can play knight to e7 first. Maybe they will offer a bishop trade. Feels a little bit crazy, but crazier things have happened. g4 is also an option, pinning the knight to the queen. So they take. Okay. Let's go ahead and do that, so we can get our knight out, and then we can recapture this pawn. I don't know if they're planning b4 perhaps. Okay. So they push f3, weakening their kingside. We can drop back. Let's see. Can we drop back to h5? A concern with this bishop is often, are we going to get trapped? So we drop back to h5, they play g4, we drop back to g6, and then they have h4, and we can play h6 in response. Okay, so we can safely drop back here. And we're not going to get trapped, but we do need to be careful. They may be planning on depriving us of this nice... Oh, shucks. f5 square for our knight. So now that's no longer an option. We could do something like this, like knight takes on e5, and then get our other knight out to c6. That opens up the possibility of them pushing their c-pawn. Okay, so they reinforce this pawn. We play our knight back to c8, which is not ideal. Like, this is a pretty cramped position. It's not very appealing, but I don't think the end of the world. That allows us perhaps to capture b4 looks a little bit dangerous here. Yeah, and if we play a5, I think they have b4 to b5, which looks pretty bad for us because we don't have this nice escape square for our knight. Could play b6. I think this trade is in our favor. We could do something like queen out to c7, hitting this pawn again, and then I don't think they have a way. I guess they could play like, no, they can't play queen out to d4. They don't have a way to defend this pawn again. So if we play queen to c7, that opens a path for clearing this pawn out of the way. I do want to get castled sooner rather than later. Our opponent doesn't have a good place to castle, I don't think. They've weakened both their king side and their queen side pawn structure. So they might leave their king out in the center, which I think would be good for us if we could just make a little bit of headway on getting castled. I guess queen to h4 was an option, no longer an option. We need to play h6 here so that our light squared bishop doesn't get trapped in this nice retreating square. I think the move is typically hold off on playing h4 to h5 until you can actually make use of that tempo. Or playing like f3, f4, f5. They can get their dark squared bishop out of the way. They castle. Very interesting. So this pawn is hanging. Let's get our bishop out to e7 so we can castle. This pawn is hanging, so we can just take it. Okay. No longer hanging. We can drop our bishop back to h7. Nice defensible position. Bishop out to h4. And then maybe if we take here, they take back, we take with the queen, and we have dangerous ideas on, what is this, e3. Let's do that now before they have a chance to reinforce further. So we'll take here. And maybe bishop out to d6, because I'm realizing now we sort of self-pinned our knight to our queen. I think it was worth it to pick up. It wasn't a free pawn. That's like an exchange pawn. We lost this pawn a ways back when we put a knight in front of our dark squared bishop. I think that was a mistake. We could take here with check, but we lose the knight, and then we can't take back because their knight is defending their dark squared bishop. But if they move this piece, and this piece is hanging, then that's an option. I do want to check real quick. Are there any hanging pieces? I don't see any. These are all defended. They're on the back rank with each other. Defended by the queen. This is defended by the dark squared bishop. Defended by the knight. Defended by the king. So their light squared bishop is in a pretty poor position. So maybe it's better to leave this pawn in place for now. This is, yeah, not looking good over there. No, we can't play dark square bishop here, can we? Because that loses to the pawn. Okay, so they get their knight out. maybe wanting to come out to the rim on a5. I like the idea of playing. Well, I do want to get castled soon. But I like the idea of playing b6 here to maybe force this exchange and open up this file for our rook. It's pretty neat. And also gets this pawn out of our business. If they come down, we can simply take or maybe get our knight out. Yeah, let's do that. I don't feel that we're under undue pressure yet, so I feel comfortable delaying castling, but it is on my radar. I guess this was an open check that we really can't defend against. Oh boy, I've been blundering that lately, that queen to a4 check. I messed it up in the Queen's Gambit accepted recently. I messed it up here. Yeah, queen to a4 check would have been a really powerful move here. Maybe queen up would have been the move, and then we can capture back with the knight, or capture back with the pawn. Oops. Yeah, well, I'm glad that didn't happen. And perhaps another argument for getting castled next turn. If they push, we can... Well, if they push, then they don't have that check available to them. They push this pawn to c6, that interrupts potential checking. Okay, they get their queen out. It's interesting. Take here. Okay, so they do have 3 defenders on this pawn now. 1, 2, 3. So we can't... Well, we would lose this exchange. Take, 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 and we lose our queen. So could we add another defender to that space? Oh, that's a fork. Forking the king and the queen. Too bad their light squared bishop is defending their f3 pawn. Oh, shucks. That would have been fun. I guess their rook is also defending it. Maybe we go ahead and get castled now that they're starting to bring pieces over to our side of the board. Let's do that. They take... Oh, darn. I was so focused on this pawn that I didn't notice they added another attacker to our knight. Well, shucks. We could play bishop out here. I don't love that because if they choose to take, then we have that. And then, so if we play bishop to f6, they have bishop takes on f6. We capture back with our g7 pawn. And then they have queen takes on f6. And they have this very advanced queen in our position, likely with more nastiness to follow. Can't put our bishop out here because that loses to the pawn, so I think we just need to move our queen. We just need to move our queen up. Looks good to me. Is this a threat? I think that is a threat. Oh, gosh. Not looking good. Could drop our queen back to here. Come out. Do we have anything we can threaten, really? No. So if we take with our pawn here, they capture, we capture. I like that idea. Let's go for that. threaten their queen, get a pawn off of... Okay, so they go for the queen trade. They don't need to get their pawn out of, or their bishop out of danger immediately. We have bishop out here, which looks kind of nice. Okay, so we're down a piece. Queens have been traded. Maybe push our pawn to A6 so we can get our knight out. Or if we move our dark squared bishop, I think that's a little bit more appealing. Get up here, it's defended, and that opens up a little bit better space for our knight. So let's do that. And now we are looking for tactics to try and win that piece back, or at least get up an exchange, something to mitigate our loss. Knight to e7 doesn't then leave us with any incredible options. This loses the knight. Maybe we play knight to e7 and get our rook out to c8. Okay, so they're going to try to cramp our position a little bit more. Maybe playing g5. Yeah, our position's going to open up pretty quickly if we're not careful. Knight out, rook over. When their bishop leaves, we can't take this because it's guarded by the knight. But we might be able to take here with check, and then if they recapture with the knight, then we can take that pawn. That's not a great tactic. Still have this nice defensive structure in front of our king. I'm happy with that. They're curbing the development of their dark squared bishop a little bit with pushing f4. So I like our position a little bit better. Let's see what happens when the rook comes out to c8. Where does their bishop go? It doesn't have a lot of squares, so either of these would lose the bishop. This would potentially trade the bishop, which I don't think we want. This loses the bishop. This would be fine. So they have a couple of safe squares to retreat their bishop to once we get our rook out to c8. But that's looking like the next move, I think, is get a rook into the game. I'm less worried about this pawn and more worried about finding some sort of tactic that will get us an advantage. And maybe rook to c8. Maybe we can get this exchange if these two pieces clear out somehow. Oh, that's an idea. Oh, so they drop their bishop back anyways. Darn, I was hoping to use that to do some clever tactics. Maybe we hang on to it with bishop to h4. I don't see any downsides. Oh, I guess bishop to h4, they have knight back to f3, hitting both of these squares. Bishop h4, knight to f3, bishop to d3, generating a threat of our own, hitting this hanging knight. Let's look at that a little bit more. Bishop, knight, bishop. If they take, are they threatening anything? I don't think so. Their knight's on the rim, and it's sort of useless there. Okay, so let's give that a shot. Expecting knight back. We could also generate a threat with knight to c6, like we were sort of looking at earlier. But this bishop is defended by this pawn, so I like that a little bit less. Oh, wonderful. And I was looking at, like, bishop out. Oh, they moved their king? What is going on? Maybe they're going to try to hunt down our bishop here. Hmm. Push up here. En passant recaptures, opens up our rook. But they've got this nice outpost for their bishop. I think maybe rook out, like we had discussed earlier. So their king's likely coming to h3 next. Is there anywhere else we could go? No, I think we need to go back to f6, unfortunately. I mean, I guess this is check, but they take our bishop. It's a needless rook sacrifice. What do we think about this en passant? And then we don't have a way to defend the bishop. Yeah, so I think we drop back, allowing this trade. Unfortunately, this is an option now. Knight out to c6. I think this is less dangerous now that we've protected it. But I think our opponent should take here. I think when you're up a piece, just trading everything that you can is often the quickest way to a victory. Not the most exciting way to finish out a game, but with this, we've just got this crazy good pawn structure. These doubled pawns afford us any opportunities. We could maybe push here. If we push here, they can... Oh, and then... Yeah, so if we push e5, they can push f5, and they have this really nice pawn structure here. If we push here, that looks a little bit better, because if they push here, we can take... Oops. So maybe we push f5. This rook is just going to be buried behind pawns for a little bit. So maybe we move our king over to h8 and then rook over to g8. So a little two-move maneuver. But maybe worth the time invested. Otherwise, if their knight moves, this pawn is hanging. Oh, no longer. Okay. So we push f5. Yeah, no. I was looking to, like, are we okay hemming in our light squared bishop? But with this rook moving over to c1, this sort of skewer x-ray thing, I don't know what it's called, of the knight and the rook is no longer an option. Okay, they push. We take. They take back. Oh, and we're looking. They push. No, if they push here, then we can take. They can take. We can take. Okay. So maybe we move forward with this idea of king over, rook over. Yeah, I think we're running low on pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 10 pieces remaining with which to make decisions. I think untangling this square here is of critical importance, just so we get a little more piece mobility. We're looking at a little bit of danger here. Take, 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 take. And then maybe rook over to g8 next, after they make their next move. We do have both of our rooks. We still have 5 pawns. But we both got plenty of time left on the clock. So I just want to proceed thoughtfully, proceed cautiously. Okay, they push a pawn. Not super worried about that right now. We'll get our rook over. Their king is super exposed. Any pieces that can defend it, like these, are over on the other side of the board. All right, let's see. What is this? So if we push f6 and they take, then we have... then we have just a free piece there. And then potentially... Well, no, that's not right. So if we push f6, they take, we take, they take, and they're threatening promotion. That's no good. If we push f6 and they take, rook to g4, check, supported by this pawn. The king moves to h3. And then I don't think we can do anything from there. We could play rook takes with check, but then we just lose the rook. We could maybe double our rooks then, or get our knight out of the way and then double our rooks. Let's, well, where does our knight go in that situation? So f6. Oh, you know what? I think this is all bunk, because if we play f6 and they push, we're toast. We lose our light squared bishop, so that's no good. Maybe we push f4 to free up that space for our light squared bishop again. This is such a nice pawn structure, and I'm sort of loath to break it up. Oh, here's an idea. Knight out. If they take, we can take back, and then we have rook to c4 check. Could we threaten... We could do rook to c4 check, pinning their knight. Or it's not a check, but it pins their knight to their king. And then maybe... Ooh, that looks good. Pawn up to e5, yeah. So rook to c4, pinning their knight to their king. They make some sort of move. We can move our pawn up. This pawn loses a defender, but we have another defender on it. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Take advantage of their very exposed king. This is an option that opens up now. Knight out to c6, because their knight cannot capture back. Even if it did, we have this rook as a defender. Rooks are allowed to move backwards. But I don't see a way that they can hit us, which is really nice. This knight's development is fairly curbed. It's a good move. Getting their king out of the way of the pin. Do we move forward with our plan? What happens? Where does their knight go? Yeah, so this f5 loses the knight to our light squared bishop. This loses to our pawn. This loses to our rook. That's a safe square. b3 is a safe square. This e2 has a piece on it. Okay, so they have safe squares to move the knight, but I think it's worth it, so they're not coming further into our territory, I guess, unless they play like this, which I think I would be fine with. Oh, and now we have rook takes g5. If their knight moves, we also have... This isn't check. Rook to g4, but it does look scary, and it's supported by this pawn. I think probably rook takes g5 is a little bit better. Threatening rook takes h5 check with unpleasantness to ensue. So I'm hoping they move back, somewhere inoffensive. Oh, I guess. Shucks. Knight to f3 ruins our ideas of rook takes g5. But we can scare it further back. Yeah, if we push here, push e4, their knight needs to move out of the way. This blocks our rook from getting in further. Their knight probably comes out to e5. But then we can take. Oh no, and then they have rook takes f7, forking our king and our rook. Nasty stuff. Okay. And then we don't have a way to counteract that. We could like move our rook up. Oops. Move our rook up and get our king over to g8 to protect this pawn. This pawn is hanging right now. We get this rook further in the game. Or do we want to move this f4 pawn to get our light squared bishop sort of mobile and active again? That also maybe... Do we want to do anything with our knight? I don't see anything super appealing we can do with our knight off the top of my head. I mean, this is a forkable square if we got our knight all the way over there, but I don't think we have the time to do that. Maybe f4. I think e4 doesn't work for our purposes right now. Well, we could still play e4. If their knight comes here, we have a moment. We can play something to reinforce this pawn before we play rook takes g5. We play like rook up, king over. Yeah. All right. And they may not play knight to e5. There are other valid escaping squares, I think. Okay, they play it. Shucks. Okay, so I think rook up to g7, get ready to reinforce our pawn with king over to g8. Oh, no. Knight takes rook. Okay, so we take back. Okay, so we're down a full rook now. We're down that exchange. This is looking very appealing now. We have some advanced pawns. It's a good move. Is there any way we can reinforce or add another attacker to this g5 square? Knight up here, maybe? That's another exchange loss. Or that's another piece we're down, so that's not as appealing. Knight. No. Over here. No, that doesn't work. We push here. We lose. We lose our light squared bishop. Maybe we just push here and push here. Does that open up any nastiness with their light squared bishop, which up to this point has been sort of hemmed in? Other option, this. I mean, that's technically a fork, but one of the forking targets is their knight. That's no good. Jeez. Down. No, that doesn't work. Do like down, over, and then they come down. So that doesn't work. I guess, yeah. Bishop to g8, rook to h7, pawn to h6, and then knight comes over with check, but then they have a million spaces to move to. And then we don't have a way to capture this pawn on g5. I think we gotta get our king involved somehow. I don't want to make that sacrifice. I think maybe we just do push these pawns. So I think we gotta push this one first. So we push this one first. It's hanging. F4 to follow. If they want to try to threaten this piece. Oh, I guess. Oh, yeah. So what we can do is, if the king comes over, it can't take it right now because it's protected by our knight. Oh, it's protected by our bishop as well, so we can play... Here. Ooh. We push here, come out and threaten their rook. They're threatening knight down to d8, or rook down to d8. Rook blocks. Yeah, takes, and we're down that exchange. Can we add a defender to this square? I think we could swing our knight out here. That doesn't look too bad. Let's do that. Oh, man. I don't know what's going on the past couple of days. I have been blundering pieces left and right. It's no good, I tell you. I mean, yeah, this game is sunk, I think. This is not looking too good for me. Maybe push here. Takes. And then I can't take back because their knight is defending that square as well. Yeah, not my game. We're close to a promotion, but this back rank is guarded by the rook. And I don't see a way to get my rook over to the promotion square. I could teleport my rook to e1 and get rid of this rook. But that is not likely to happen, I don't think. We push here, they take. If we push here, en passant. If we push here, then our rook is pinned to our king. Jeez. Just a harmless pawn move. Get that out of harm's way. They play check. Our bishop is a defender here. Surprise attack. Maybe. Check. Trade. And then maybe we can sneak our way up to the top of the board. Oh, mew my. What is our path? Oh, yeah, and I think we need to... Yeah, realistically, we take here, they take back, we take... and then we can't race our way to our pawn fast enough. We could come up, maybe, like, threatening their knight. The trade was probably the smart thing to do. But I'm grasping at straws here, looking for really any opportunity. too, I guess if they decide to push here, I can just drop back and take it. Yeah. Not my day. We will soldier on, looking for any opportunity to turn this into a win somehow. I don't see it necessarily. I think here maybe we can make the bishop trade. And oh no, because if they do like this, they have bishop over here, and then I have to move away. I mean, I think they're getting our bishop regardless. If we push, the piece is toast. Oh geez, some of these look like checkmate too. So if we come over here, we take, we move up here, we come back down, and then we have precious few squares to move to. So I think, ugh. Yeah, I do like this. Take the trade. Regarding our one precious piece, they cannot advance. We can't get up here because their knight and their king are in the way. Yeah, down this much material. We have our one precious pawn. Oh yeah, every move that we make ruins our position. Okay, so we... Oh boy. Hope for a draw, I guess. I don't think if they get a queen, we still have this square to move to. Yeah. They're... Oh boy. This is... I don't know, between the two of these, I don't know if one is slightly better. Promote to a queen with check. Back to the center of the board in as much as that's possible. Only legal move. And then maybe rook down for checkmate. There we go. All right. Couple blunders. I do appreciate that. I think the analysis engine doesn't call it a blunder when you're already down material. It's just like there's only so much you can do at that point. All right. Book moves. G3 was a little strange, but it transposes pretty effectively into this version of the advance. They did, with sort of the moves that were played, lock in their light squared bishop. So I'm not surprised to see like a marginal edge for black here. Not enough to like win the game, obviously, but yeah, defending their hanging pawn. C8 is excellent. Okay, well that's encouraging. That felt like a very strange maneuver. Let's see. H4. Yeah, they should have developed a piece. H6 was a mistake. That's interesting. What should we have played instead? Because I think moving here, what's the better option? H6, to A3, D7. I don't understand what they're threatening here. Best move was A5. So I'm not sure I understand this. So if we hadn't played H6, let's say we had played A5. They push. Where do we move our light squared bishop? Oh, we just trade the piece. Okay. Yeah, so I guess we weren't truly with this pawn on C3 opening up their queenside knight. But I guess that was an option. Okay. 5. I want to get to the critical blunders. Accuracy, a mistake. Lost control of the position. The engine is just screaming at me to play a5. I wonder, maybe similar to like the Queen's Gambit accepted when black tries to hang on to the Gambit pawn. The swiftest way to punish that is playing a5, so this is sort of a similar position here. So maybe I should have made that connection between those two openings. Yeah, and I leave my knight hanging here because I was so focused on the pawn. So that's the critical blunder of the game. Bishop takes. Scare away the queen. Yep. Okay. And then our opponent just plays very strong chess from here. I don't know if there are any other critical moments in the game. Obviously, I lost my knight here. This move loses material. It's very kind of the engine not to call that a blunder. Yeah. Nope. Okay. Another loss, sort of disheartening, but we will soldier on and try again tomorrow. All right, that's all for me. Have a good one, y'all.